Hi everyone. Just wanted to give you a few little pieces of information about this tote before I show you the video of the making of the tote. Some of you on social media had asked, I had made a version of this in canvas and it was loosely inspired by the other tote by Marc Jacobs. And then some people had asked, what pattern is this? And I mentioned that maybe I would try to make a video on it. It's not actually a pattern. I just used measurements and just kind of figured it out as I went. But I decided to make another one because I wanted to make myself like a classier one, a little bit more structured, and mostly because I didn't like the height of the first one that I made for myself. I wanted to give it maybe like another inch. So that's what I did for this one. And I love the way it came out. I think it came out beautifully. It is made with a marine vinyl exterior, variegated rainbow thread. I think I got this webbing from Amazon. It has a magnetic snap, and I'm going to show you the inside and everything that it can hold. It is a fairly medium-sized bag, I would say. It's not super small. I don't carry a computer, so I don't know if a laptop would fit in here or not, but my iPad fits in there, like floats in there. There's tons of room for that. So the biggest thing was I needed a folder to fit in there, just like a regular size folder for my like papers that I would bring to work, like my timesheet specifically. And I would get so annoyed because I would go to put stuff in my bag going to work and it wouldn't fit. So I thought, well, I'm going to make myself a new work bag. So that's where this came about. So the folder fits. I made myself this little padded sleeve for my iPad, which is actually plugged in over there right now. But the iPad goes in here, my phone goes in here, and even my Kindle will go in there, fit inside. Obviously my wallet, a pen, sunglasses, a shopper's tote for when I go to Wawa. This little hand warmer thing that I got for Christmas, which is actually kind of cool. My AirPods. Some makeup, chapsticks and things like that. Chapsticks, lipsticks. Because life. And I made myself this little key ring, or actually it's kind of a big key ring with a swivel clip on one end that can actually hook into the bag using one of the connectors for the crossbody strap. So I thought that was kind of cute and cool. I needed a new key ring anyway, so my keys obviously go in there. And then there's a zipper pocket, and inside the zipper pocket, I'll show you those. Inside the zipper pocket are bazillions of things I don't have organized, like masks. There's some Dramamine drops in there, a little phone cleaning, screen cleaning thing, just like random stuff. So that's that. So I think that's everything out of the bag. The crossbody strap is an adjustable strap and does come off the bag if you wanted to. So that's that. And then I can open this up for you. The inside is made of a waterproof canvas. It's a nice, tough, sturdy canvas, and yet it feels really nice. The zipper pocket is nice and large. And I even did like a little elastic, and I don't think you're gonna be able to see it, but there's like a little elastic right here where my finger is for my water bottle to stand up in there. So a lot of little features. Let's see. Oh, I got sunglasses in here too, or readers. So anyway, so a lot of the things in here, I'll just tell you where they came from. I can't remember where I got the thread, but or the marine vinyl and the canvas I've had forever, so I don't really know where I got those. But I got most of my hardware from Mormino, Lauren at Mormino, and I got my D-rings, this hardware from Bob and Jen's Odds and Ends. What else? The magnetic snap I think was from Amazon. And I think that's it. It's a nice sturdy bag. Feels good, right? So anyway, before we get started, I'm just going to pop a list of pattern pieces up on the screen for you to look at the measurements. I will try to also upload, just for convenience sake for anybody who wants them, that wants to spend like $2, they can download the pattern pieces off of my website, but that'll probably take me a couple of days. You absolutely do not need the pattern pieces. You can do this without them. They are all rectangles, so you could measure it out easily. But I know that I'm the type of person that does like to use pattern pieces a lot of the time, so if you do, I'll try to have those available for you. I think that's it for what I have to say about the bag. I will tell you that as we go into the video, as you see me working on this bag, as we get toward the end, the bulk was a lot. Even for my industrial machine, I had some trouble with some of the bulkiest spots at the end of sewing this bag together. So just kind of like, you'll watch it, you'll take that into consideration if you do decide to sew your own, knowing what your machine can do before you go out and get like marine vinyl and waterproof canvas, hopefully. I think that's everything I had to tell you, so I will get you started now. We're gonna start with making the handles. Oh, that was the other thing. So the handles, the measurements for the handles are gonna do what you see here. So if you're like me and you want a handle that is over your shoulder but doesn't drop really, it's just right under the arm, those measurements are gonna work. And I mean, everybody's different, but I'm 5'4", average build, I guess, or something, so that might work for you. But if you want it a little bit longer, go longer than what you see there. If you want the grab handle like you see in the canvas bag, which I did first, which I'll post a picture of so you can see that, you can go shorter. I will say I might have even gone a couple of inches longer just to accommodate for my big, heavy winter coat. So if I had to do it again, I might have done that. But so take that into consideration too. Know that you can make this bag with any size handle, and you can make this bag any size that you want. You can decide to increase or decrease the depth, the height, or the width. It's really just a matching game. It's like putting together a puzzle, and you can do it yourself. That's one of the great things about just doing it this way rather than having to go by a specific pattern to do a specific bag. You get to make the decisions for it. You can decide that you don't want the zipper pocket. You just want all slip pockets. You can decide that you don't want any. I almost didn't do any pockets at all because I was thinking that I might want to make like a separate like purse organizer that could go in there, and then I could switch out when I decide to go to a different bag later on. But then I was like, nah, I kind of want the pockets just in case I don't get around to that. But anyway, so those are all decisions you can make. Or you can make it just like this. Totally up to you. Okay, so we're gonna get started. The list is up here for you to look at the measurements. I'll also type them in the description, and I will also put a link to the pattern pieces once they're available in the description. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and have fun. Okay, the first thing I'm doing is the handles. I've already prepped one of them. I'm going to show you how to prep the handle. You're going to take some double-sided tape and just try to center it down vertically down the wrong side of the handle. You can draw a line if you're not comfortable with centering it well on your own. And then you're going to fold the outer edges inward to meet each other in the center. And you'll see me doing that here and just using the tape to tape them in place all the way to the end. After you have folded the long edges into the center, you can fold it in half, and using something that you're going to be able to wipe off of your material, make a mark from the raw edges up about 13 inches on either side, and that's going to be the mark that tells you where to start your double fold. You're going to start it at one mark and end it at the other, and you're going to use clips to hold it in place all the way through. And you're going to stitch that double fold into place just from the first mark to the second mark only. You can backstitch when you start and stop a little bit. Just be careful when you're backstitching on vinyl that you don't do it too much because you don't want to perforate the vinyl. Okay, for the next step, we're going to take the handles that we prepped and attach them to the main back and front pieces. I'm doing that by just adding some more double-sided tape to the back of them, just about 10 to 11 inches of tape, not all the way up to the folded part of the handle. And I'm placing each side of the handle about 2 inches. I measured 2 inches from the center of the main piece. I folded the main piece in half so that I could see the fold marking in the center, and then I'm placing it 2 inches on either side of that, with the bottom raw edge of the handle lined up with the bottom raw edge of the main piece. And now I'm going to mark about 1.5 inches down from the top of the main piece on each handle. And that's going to be where I turn and stitch across. When I stitch these handles, I'm going to be stitching up from the bottom on one side, turning and stitching across, and then down the other way. So my marking there is to tell me when I'm going to be crossing over. And you can see I kind of stop here and realize, oh, I should have put it on the other side of the handle so that I could see. So here I am putting it on the other side. I'm going to stitch there, leave the needle down, turn, stitch across, and then turn again and stitch down. And when I finish that part, I am trying to remember to burn the ends of my thread. It's just good practice, so I'm trying to remember to do that as I go. And now I'm folding the exterior piece under, so it's out of the way. And I'm just trying, and this was like just a little experiment on my part. I wanted the stitching to continue up those handles, the sides of those handles, as though it was kind of continuing on to the fold. And so I folded that main piece under and just stitch on either side of that wider part of the handle. I had varying success, better success on one side of the main pieces than the other, on the front than the back, once I realized kind of where I could start and stop. But that was just to give it like a little bit of detail, a little bit more detail on those handles, and a little bit more, just to keep the handles in place better, the folds in place. So here I am doing the other side. I'm just going to do the exact same thing, up, across, and down. And then again, when I'm finished there, I am going to very, very carefully fold the main piece under so that I don't catch it in my stitching, and I'm going to stitch the wider part of the handle just starting as far back as I can, and going as far as I can before I meet that folded part of the handle on both sides. And when you're finished with one main piece and handle, just go ahead and repeat this process for the other handle and the other main piece. The next step is to attach the bottom panel to the two main exterior pieces, the front and back. Right sides together, you're going to put the bottom panel on top of one of the pieces, and you're going to line up the bottom edges of each, as you can see here. Clip them in place and then stitch. I just used a 1/4 inch seam allowance and stitch across the bottom. And then I'm going to turn that, and I'm going to top stitch. Keep the seam under the bottom panel, and then top stitch along that seam. I got a little stuck there. It happens. And you're then going to just do this for the other side of the bottom panel and the other main piece. So you're going to put them together, right sides together, matching the leftover side of the bottom panel with the bottom side of that other main piece, making sure the handle is upward on it, and clip that together. And again, with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, you're going to stitch along that. You're going to turn it and top stitch just like you did the previous side. As much as I wanted to do another heat transfer vinyl decoration on the front of my bag that kind of poked fun at the tote bag label, I decided not to. This one is so pretty. The vinyl is so classy and shiny and pretty, and the thread is so pretty, and I didn't want to mess with it. So instead, the only decorative touch I'm adding to my front exterior is the handmade metal tag that I purchased from Lauren at Mormino. It's very pretty. It matches the rainbow hardware. It just gives it a little added bling. But I wanted to keep it simple again because it's a really pretty black vinyl. It's shiny and beautiful, and I just didn't want to mess with it. So just the tag for me, but add whatever decorative ideas you have to the front of your bag. Okay, it's time to make the slip pockets for the interior. The first thing you're going to do is take the slip pocket piece and fold it in half horizontally, right sides together, and you're going to sew along the all the non-folded edges, the 3 edges, but you're going to leave a turning opening in the long edge. So you can see here, I'm going up the short edge, down the long edge, stop, skip over, and then start again. So I left that open, and then come and sew around to the other side. Now you're going to, after you clip all your threads, you can clip the corners a little bit just to reduce the bulk after turning, and then turn it through that opening. Turn it completely right side out and use some object like I use a chopstick to poke out the corners and make them nice and sharp. Now I'm just, after I finish turning it, I'm going to go ahead and fold in the seam allowance of that opening so that it's tucked in there, and the bottom then has no raw edges. I'm clipping that shut, and I'm just going to top stitch along the folded edge of the slip pocket. That's the only place I'm stitching right now, just the top folded edge. And then I'm going to take that pocket and I'm going to bring it over to one of my lining main pieces, which I'm folding in half as well to find the center of that. And then I'm folding my pocket piece again just to find the center again. And then I'm lining up those centers. So I'm basically just making sure that I center my slip pocket. Once you get this sewn on, you can choose to divide it up any way that you want. I'm just doing 2 equal size slip pockets, but you can do like 1 for a pen, you can do 1 big one or 3 small ones, whatever you want to do. I just think that the 2, they fit a lot of the things that I need to put in there, so that's perfect for me. So now I'm sewing this onto the main piece from the top right corner. I'm going to back stitch at the start and stop and really make that strong, and then down, and then this part here that had the turning open, I'm going to be making sure when I sew across it that I'm sewing that closed as I sew it to the main piece, so there's no more opening there. Get down to the other side, turn, and then up to the top again. So that's a big slip pocket. You could leave it like that if you wanted a large one, but now I'm just going to use that fold line, and I'm just going to stitch down that fold line so that I divide it into 2 pockets.
To make the zipper pocket piece, I fold the main piece that I'm working with in half horizontally so that I can find the center of it, and then the zipper pocket piece in half vertically to find the center of that. And then I place them right sides together, zipper pocket on top, positioned about 3 inches down from the top of the main piece and centered. Once it's positioned down about 3 inches down, I'm going to use my ruler to draw a rectangle that is a ½ inch long or ½ inch wide rectangle that is about 3/4 inches in from either side edge of the zipper pocket piece. I'm in the way, but you'll see that in a moment. There you go. And I'm going to get ready to sew that rectangle along the long edges. Make sure that you backstitch when you start and stop your sewing. I'm starting on one corner and going straight to the other one, backstitching, lifting up, and then coming down to the other corner, and then going all the way and backstitching on the other end. At this point, I'm going to be cutting a slit in the center, lengthwise in the center of my rectangle from about a ½ inch in on one side to a ½ inch in on the other side. You can see I've drawn little triangles there in that ½ inch on either end, and I'm also cutting those little triangle marks. I did not cut into the stitching at all. And now I'm just pushing the zipper pocket through to the other side of the main piece and turning everything out so that I have that little window there, rectangle window with no raw edges. And because it's not a cotton fabric or a regular fabric, I just used clips to hold that in place rather than press it while I get my zipper ready to put behind the window. Okay, now I'm going to place the zipper behind the window with the zipper pull inside the window over to the left. So it's in there, but I'm going to have to obviously move it out of the way as I'm sewing. You can leave the needle down and just push it around when you get to it. And you're going to top stitch around the entire window. When you're finished installing the zipper, turn it over, fold up the zipper pocket piece so that the bottom edge meets the top and clip in place. Push the main piece out of the way and begin sewing on one short edge of the zipper pocket piece, then down the long top edge, and then down the other short edge. The next step is to attach the lining bottom piece to the lining main pieces, and to do this we're going to do exactly what we did with the exterior. Right sides together, bottom of the bottom panel along the bottom of one of your main pieces, and sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The only difference is I didn't flip and top stitch these, so I just sewed the bottom to one main piece, and then you can see there I kind of decided, nope, I'm not going to top stitch that. And then I just sewed the other side. So the bottom of the other main piece, make sure the pockets are facing the right direction, and then sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you're finished with your main lining piece. With a lot of bags, what we would normally do is put the complete exterior together and then complete the lining and then sew the exterior and lining together, but not with this one. With this one, we're going to take the two main pieces that we've made now, the lining and the exterior, without the side gussets attached, and we're going to right sides together. You're going to align the top of one of them, of one side, and you're going to sew that with a 1/4 inch seam allowance along the top and not more. Once you've done that, you can take the other side of the lining and match it to the exterior, the other edge, and clip them in place. And you can see I'm actually looking at those. I looked at those center markings that I had clipped on my bottom panel to make sure that they're lined up. And now I'm going to sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance along the other top edge of the main body piece here. So you're going to end up with like a tube, kind of. They're sewn together along the top and bottom like a tube. And then you're going to turn that tube so that it is right side out. Okay, once it's flipped right sides out, I'm going to be pinning along the 2 sewn edges just in place of pressing, since I can't press this material, just to kind of keep them in place for when I do top stitch. But before I top stitch them, I'm actually going to be adding some stabilizer to the bottom of the bag inside that tube before I sew the sides together. I have mixed feelings about how I did this. I used a corrugated plastic, which is a really thick, nice, sturdy material, and I slip it in there. I make sure that it's fitting right, and that there's plenty of room for seam allowances around the sides of it. However, it did make getting the bag under the machine occasionally difficult. Even though I wasn't sewing over it, it still was hard to position the bag the way I needed it to. But I do love how stable that is. The bottom is really nice and sturdy. So it might have been worth it. I don't know. But I put that in there, and then once I have that placed, and I use double-sided tape to place it, the next thing I'm going to do is start top stitching on one of those stitched edges there along the top. And I'm doing a 1/2 inch down. I'm not top stitching near the very top like we normally do, near the seam, because I'm trying to get that look of the Marc Jacobs, the tote bag look, where they have these really thick seams along the top and sides. So I'm actually top stitching a full 1/2 inch down to get that look. And you can see after I do this top stitching, you'll see me just kind of like check the bag out, hold it up together and see where things are, how things are looking. And the reason I'm doing that at this point is because the next step in this process is to place the magnetic snap. And I did save that step for this point because I wanted to be able to see, since this isn't like a pattern, there's no like, oh, place the magnetic snap here. I saved it for now because I can reach in there through the tube and place it, and I can really kind of get an idea of where I want it once the top stitching is in there, and make sure that I didn't have to, you know, top stitch too close to it or around it, and get an idea of exactly where I want to put it. So that's what I'm doing, and I don't remember the exact place that I did place the magnetic snap, so that's going to be something that you're going to want to just kind of eyeball as well when you're doing this and say, okay, I think it's going to go right here. That's away from the stitching. That's a good place for it. It's not too low. It's not too high. That's going to be totally up to you. So at this point, we're done with the top stitching. And I'm just checking it out, and you can see me here. All right, I like this point right here. And I guess I did about 1 inch down from the very, very top of the bag if you're looking at the ruler. And I'm going to use the magnetic snap backing there once I have it centered to draw my little lines inside that snap, and that way I'll know where to make my seam ripper cuts. I'm using these marking pens from Lauren, and I can't find the pencil part that they go in, just I can only find the refills, so that's what that is, but they're working just as well. They're great little pens. I don't know if she still has them on her website, but I may have to go ahead and buy some more with the pencil part since I lost it. Anyway, so there you can see I ripped into those marks, and I am reaching inside the bag to place the magnetic snap. And I don't know if you can tell, but I did put a backing, like a stabilizing backing on underneath there. Like just cut a little square of stabilizer back there and use that to just support the magnetic snap area so it doesn't start to tear with use of the bag.
And this might be a good time to talk about why I chose a magnetic snap over a recessed zipper, and that was purely for the purposes of convenience in making the bag and it taking less time. I will say that the recessed zipper, if you did add a recessed zipper to this bag, would make it a little easier to carry things, fill it to the top, and keep it shut, because it gives you that open space at the top and still allows it to be closed. Now we're at the point where we're going to close both sides of the tube of our main body piece. So I'm just going to use some clips to hold the lining and exterior together, and then I'm going to just, using a small seam allowance, like even a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to sew down each long edge of our tube here. That's just going to make it easier to put in the gussets, which will be coming up next. Sewing down one long edge here, closing up the tube. And now the other long edge. The next step in the process is the gussets, and here we're going to take one of the exterior gusset pieces and one of the lining gusset pieces, and we're going to sew them together. We're going to put them right sides together and clip and sew just along the top edge of the gusset. That's the edge that will be along the top of the bag, with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, just like I did here. And then we're going to flip it and top stitch. And again, if you look closely, you'll see I have notched the center out of the bottom edge of my gussets on both the lining and the exterior there. You can see that center notch and center fold in the gusset. Again, the top stitching is a 1/2 inch down from the edge. It's a thick top stitching seam. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the other pair of gussets. Right sides together, sewing along the top edge with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, flipping them, and then top stitching with that 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now I'm adding the crossbody strap connectors to the lining gussets. I'm just using 1 inch wide webbing for that, just wrapped over a 1 inch D-ring and then centered. And you can see I'm kind of playing with how far down. I think it's maybe 2 inches or 1.5 inches down from the top. Somewhere in that area will be fine. You just don't want it too far down or too far up that it's getting stuck under the seam at the top there, but not too far down that your crossbody strap is having to go too far into the bag to hook it in. So somewhere close to the top, 1.5 inches to 2 inches down from that top would be good. And I'm just flipping open the two gusset pieces, the exterior and lining, so that I can stitch the gusset onto the lining. I also put some stabilizer support, I don't know if you saw that, underneath that crossbody connector on the wrong side of the lining to give it a little more support since it will be bearing weight. Unfortunately, I forgot to do that the second time around, so hopefully it will hold for me, but you can see it there where I just sewed that stabilizer to the back. But then, as you'll see as I get onto the second connector, I forgot to do that. So now I'm just closing the gusset piece just like I did with the main piece, just closing all the raw edges so that it's easy to install into the bag. And then we're going to do the same exact thing for the other gusset. And I just want to also mention one more time that as you close the raw edges of the gussets, just make sure that, again, you are only sewing with about 1/8 to 1/4 inch seam, no more than 1/4 inch, and definitely, if you can, a little bit less, just because you don't want that stitching showing through. You'll be stitching again further in later on. So you really want to keep that seam allowance small. So just on the fly, I decided I wanted to add a piece of elastic to put on one of the interior gusset pieces, just to have a place to stick my water bottle without it falling all over the bag when I carry it. So that's what I'm doing now. Just cut a piece of elastic a little bit wider than the gusset, not too big, but not too small, so that the water bottle will fit in easily. And then the gussets are done, and it's time to move on to installing them into the bag. So you're going to find that I actually do this differently on one side than the other because I just felt like it worked better. On this side, you can see I'm matching up the gusset, and this part will be the same for both. I matched the center bottom of the gusset with the center of the bottom panel, and now I'm just clipping it into place and making sure that the rest of the gusset is all lined up, that the tops are aligned, that everything's fitting in well. And for this one, once it's clipped, I'm going to go ahead and stitch the gusset down with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting from one edge, the one top corner, and just going down, around, across the bottom, and then up the other side. And because of the really heavy stabilizer piece that I put inside the bottom, I found this to be pretty difficult, getting the bag under the machine and getting it to turn easily under the machine to get across the bottom. So here I'm going to struggle a little bit. See that bottom part just won't bend out of the way. So that became difficult, but I got through it, and then you'll see, I'll show you on the other side a much easier way to do this gusset. The other thing I didn't do, which would have made things easier, was I didn't notch out the corners of the gusset pieces to reduce bulk. That would have really helped with if just like a 1/4 inch square notch out of each corner at the bottom would have probably been helpful. I just didn't think to do it ahead of time. But I made it through. As you can see here, I'm getting through to the other side. No real issues, just a little, it just wasn't, it wasn't super smooth or super easy, but I do make it through. And then we're going to get to the end of this, and go ahead and do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm pinning it in place the exact same way, matching up the center bottom of the gusset with the center of the bottom panel. But as you can see, I'm just sewing across the bottom first before I match up the rest of the gussets. Now that the bottom is sewn in, now I'm aligning the rest of the gussets into place. And now I'm just going to have to go ahead and sew down one side, stop, and then sew down the other side. And I found that to be much easier for this bag given the stabilizer that was in there. So you might want to try that too. So you can see here with the 1/4 inch seam allowance, I'm sewing down one side and getting to the bottom, back stitching, stopping, and then I just turn and then start from the other end and sew down the other side. And there we go. Just a little bit easier of a process. basically the same result. So if you find that you're having problems with that, you can try that method as well. Okay, the bag is put together. It is done. The only thing that we have to do now is finish those raw edge seams that are inside there on the gussets by doing French seams. So I'm turning the bag right side out. Now you can see it's a tote. It's already basically a tote. You could leave it like this and just bind the inside if you wanted. But what I'm doing is I'm going to clip the seams, as you can see here, just to hold them in place, making sure that they're really well pushed out, and you can really see those folds, can see the seams. And once they're all clipped, well, I will say once I clipped them all, I sat there and stared at them for quite a long time because I knew that this was going to be the hardest part of this bag, getting that entire bag under the machine to do those thick French seams and getting that bulk with that stabilizer on the bottom under the machine was going to be really hard. So I kind of stared at it for a little while and went, okay, you know, what's my plan here? But ultimately, I just decided there isn't a plan. It's just a matter of trying. And if I can't get all the way through, I'm just going to have to leave a couple spots open. If I can't, you know, just backstitch and then lift up and skip over parts if I have to. You can see I'm marking a 1/2 inch in from the corners. That's to help me know where I should stop and turn because, you know, I wasn't sure if I would be able to tell where a good stopping point would be. So I just marked where I should stop and turn. And now I'm doing those French seams. I'm doing a 1/2 inch in, so that's encasing my 1/4 inch seams inside that seam allowance. So you'll have no raw edges inside the bag, and you're going to have that signature look of that nice defined gusset there that you see with the Marc Jacobs bag. So you can see here's where I'm struggling again. I had to take it off and then start from another angle and try again. And eventually, when you see pictures of the bag, when you look at it, you can see it did work out, but you know, you can just tell it's just hard to get through. And mostly it's because the bottom was no longer flexible. So if anything, I would say just watch what you use as your stabilizer, especially if you think you might have a hard time getting the bag under your machine to begin with. And here you can see I ended up just doing the 2 long edges of the French seams, taking the bag out from under the machine, and now I'm just going to go across the bottom, kind of the reverse of what I did with the gussets when I installed them. So I did the 2 long edges, found that it was just easier to lift up, take it out, and then go across the bottom just like that. And now I'm just meeting up where I wasn't able to continue that stitching. So that's one side, and now we're going to go ahead and do the other side, and you'll see I do the same thing. I end up doing the 2 long edges, taking the bag out, and then sewing across the bottom. Seems to work well that way. Okay, we are almost finished. So the moral of the story here is that next time around, I'm just going to go ahead and do one of those removable stabilizer inserts that you just, you know, cover in plastic and you can stick into the bag, or not cover in plastic, but cover the plastic in your fabric and just put in the bag after the bag is done. And that would make that bag so much easier to do. But otherwise, I think it came out really great. Here I am just doing that last bottom seam. And then the only thing that we'll have left to do is the crossbody strap, which I did not get video of myself doing. I always forget at the end to video myself doing that last step. But I do think that I already have a video showing how to do a crossbody strap on my channel. So I'll try to link to that if I can find it and put it up there. Otherwise, maybe I'll get another video done of just the crossbody strap. Last thing, I did go back and reinforce the handles because I felt like they could be sewn closer to the top of the bag. And so as you can see, I went back and I just stitched over them closer to that top edge, which I think I just like the way they hang better and like the way that they look better stitched up there. So you'll see if you want to do that, I pushed the other side of the bag down so it's out of the way of the stitching, and just go right across there, right about where the top stitching was, and give those handles another stitch. So that's about it. One of the other things I might consider doing is just riveting through those handles or riveting through the crossbody connectors. That's another option. And I think that would just give you some more support for if you're planning on carrying a lot of things and the bag, you know, might get heavy. But I think with the handles going all the way down the main piece, they're already giving a good amount of support. But anyway, that's the bag. It's complete. There's no turning necessary, which is great. No turning through a pocket or anything like that. And we're done. So thanks so much for watching. Leave any comments below and let me know if you make one. Happy sewing, everybody.